There's a silent exodus happening right now. Millions of men, good men, kind men, men who want love and connection, are walking away from dating entirely. They're deleting their apps, skipping the bars, staying home on Friday nights. And we're not talking about losers or incels. We're talking about your brother, your coworker, that nice guy from college who just disappeared from the dating scene. I didn't see it. Not until the third time I sat alone at a wine bar, staring at an empty chair. Not until I looked around and realized all the women were waiting at tables while the men had retreated to the other side of the room. Not until my own brother told me he was done trying. What he said next changed everything I thought I knew about love, dating, and who was really to blame. I stared at the empty chair across from me and felt something inside me crack. Not break. Not shatter. Just crack. Like ice on a frozen lake when the temperature shifts just enough to make everything unstable. The wine bar buzzed with Friday night energy. Couples leaned into each other at corner tables. Groups of friends clinked glasses in celebration of survived work weeks. The air smelled of expensive perfume and overpriced appetizers. Everyone seemed to glow with the promise of the weekend ahead. Everyone except me. My phone lay face up on the table. Marcus's text stared back at me like evidence in a trial I'd already lost. Running late. Traffic. Actually can't make it. So sorry. You're amazing, but I'm not ready for anything serious. I read them again. Then again. Each time hoping the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Something that didn't feel like rejection wrapped in politeness. You're amazing, but... Those 3 words had become the soundtrack of my dating life. A compliment followed by a conjunction that erased everything that came before it. You're amazing, but you're too successful. You're amazing, but I'm intimidated. You're amazing, but I've decided to get back with my ex. You're amazing, but you're not enough. The bartender approached my table. She had purple streaks in her dark hair and the kind of effortless beauty that suggested she'd never spent 17 minutes staring at an empty chair. Her eyes held practiced sympathy. Another glass? She asked gently. Yes. Please. Thank you. The words tumbled out too quickly. She poured the Malbec with a heavy hand. I noticed she didn't ring it up. The pity pour. I'd officially become the woman who warranted free drinks out of sympathy. This felt like hitting a new low I hadn't known existed. I should leave. I knew I should leave. Go home to my perfectly decorated condo with its minimalist furniture and its view of the city lights. Order takeout. Watch something mindless on Netflix. Pretend this hadn't happened. But I couldn't make myself move. My thumb hovered over my phone's keyboard. I typed and deleted responses to Marcus's texts. Each attempt felt wrong in a different way. It's fine. Good luck. Too gracious. Why was I always so gracious? You could have told me this before I got ready. Too bitter. Too much. That phrase haunted me. Too much. Take care. I sent it before I could overthink. 2 words that said nothing and everything. I immediately regretted it. I should have said nothing at all. Silence would have had more dignity. I took a long drink of wine and let my gaze wander around the room. That's when I noticed the pattern. The bar was full but segregated in a way that felt almost deliberate. Women sat at tables in 2s and 3s. They wore carefully applied makeup and outfits that had required thought. They checked their phones with increasing frequency. Their smiles looked strained. The men congregated near the pool tables and the actual bar. They laughed loudly. Bought rounds for each other. They seemed entirely self-contained. Content in their own circles. Uninterested in the women waiting nearby. 2 separate worlds occupying the same physical space but never quite touching. At the table next to mine, a woman about my age sat alone. Her cocktail had melted into pale pink water. She kept glancing toward the entrance. waiting. Hoping. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second and I saw my own disappointment reflected back at me. We both looked away quickly. How many of us were here tonight? How many carefully applied mascara and drove across town and sat with our expectations slowly deflating? My phone buzzed. My heart did something stupid and hopeful. Maybe Marcus had changed his mind. Maybe he was outside right now. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. It was Dahlia. How's Prince Charming? Should I start shopping for a bridesmaid dress? I laughed out loud. The sound came out harsh and sharp. The woman at the next table looked over. I typed back quickly. Stood up. Third time this month. I'm getting really good at this. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Dahlia was probably curled up on her couch with her husband Rafe. They'd been together since college. She'd never navigated dating apps or ghosting or the particular hell of modern romance. She was a marriage therapist who somehow had avoided experiencing any of the disasters she counseled people through daily. I'm coming to get you. Don't move. I'm fine. Really? Vesper Chen. I know what your fine means. 15 minutes. I didn't argue. The truth was I didn't want to be alone right now. Alone meant thinking. Thinking meant spiraling. Spiraling meant questioning everything about myself until I couldn't remember what was real anymore. I was 32 years old. I had a corner office at a tech startup. A title that made people nod with approval at parties. I owned a condo in one of the most expensive cities in the country. I had a 401k and an investment portfolio and a closet full of expensive work clothes. I'd built a life that looked like success from every angle. So why did I feel like I was failing at something fundamental? Something that should have been simple? The bartender returned with water I hadn't requested. Rough night? That obvious? Only because I've been there. She leaned against my table. Taking a break from the rush. Let me guess. Great texting. Lots of promise. Then nothing? He confirmed this morning. So that's something. She laughed without humor. The bar is literally on the floor. They still manage to trip over it. Do you think it's us? The question escaped before I could stop it. Like maybe we're doing something wrong and we just can't see it? She considered this. Wiped down the already clean table with her towel. Her movements were slow and deliberate. I used to think that. Spent months trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. Made myself smaller. More agreeable. Less demanding. She paused. They still left. Her words hit something tender inside me. I wanted to respond but movement near the entrance caught my attention. Dahlia burst through the door like a hurricane given human form. She spotted me instantly. Weaved through the crowd with determination. Her blonde hair was piled in a messy bun. She wore yoga pants and an oversized cardigan. She'd clearly left her house without a second thought. Okay. She dropped into Marcus's empty chair. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave out the part where he seemed normal. I opened my mouth to launch into the story. To replay the texts and the waiting and the gradual understanding of my own invisibility. But something stopped me. A thought was forming. Something I couldn't quite articulate yet. Dahlia. Where are all the men? She blinked. What? Look around. Really look. She did. I watched her expression change as she registered what I'd noticed. Women waiting at tables. Men clustered separately. 2 parallel lines that never intersected. That's weird, she said slowly. It's not weird. It's a pattern. My mind was racing now. Connecting dots I hadn't realized existed. This is the 3rd time I've been stood up this month. 3 different men. All of them seemed interested initially. All of them pulled away right before we were supposed to meet. They're probably just commitment phobes. What if it's bigger than that? I leaned forward. My abandoned date suddenly felt less like a personal failure and more like a clue. What if something fundamental has shifted and we're all just pretending not to notice? Dahlia's phone lit up. She glanced at the screen. Then showed it to me. It was a text from Rafe. Tell Vesper that Kieran texted me. He wants to meet tomorrow. Says it's important. My younger brother never used the word important unless something actually was. What's going on with Kieran? Dahlia asked. I thought about my brother. 28 years old. Smart. Kind. Funny. The type of man who should have been in a relationship years ago. But he'd been single for over a year now. He never mentioned dates anymore. Never complained about apps. Never showed me profiles or asked for advice. I'd assumed he was taking a break. Focusing on work. Enjoying being single. But what if it wasn't a break? What if he'd given up entirely? What if he'd opted out? I don't know, I said quietly. My voice sounded strange. But I think I need to find out. Dahlia reached across the table. Squeezed my hand. Want me to come with you? I shook my head. This felt like something I needed to face alone. Some conversation that required just the two of us. Me and my brother. The truth between us. I'll call you after, I said. She nodded. Understood without me having to explain. We left the wine bar together. The Friday night crowd swallowed us as we pushed through to the exit. All those people looking for connection. All those separate worlds spinning in the same space without ever quite touching. Outside, the city lights glittered. The air was cold. I pulled my jacket tighter. Dahlia hugged me goodbye. Promised to check in later. I watched her walk to her car. Watched her text Rafe that she was on her way home. Watched her smile at whatever he sent back. I stood alone on the sidewalk. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I opened my text thread with Kieran. Typed, coffee tomorrow morning? Our usual place? His response came immediately. Like he'd been waiting. Yes. I need to tell you something. Those 7 words made my stomach drop. I stared at them. Tried to decode the tone. The meaning beneath the meaning. Something was coming. Something that would change how I saw everything. I didn't know it yet. But my brother was about to pull back a curtain I'd been standing behind my entire adult life. And once I saw what was on the other side, I wouldn't be able to unsee it. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. Kieran was already there. That told me everything I needed to know about how serious this conversation would be. My brother was never early. He operated on what our mother called creative time. Always rushing in with apologies and stories about traffic or lost keys or some other minor disaster. But today he sat at our usual corner table with his hands wrapped around a black coffee. His shoulders curved inward. He looked smaller than I remembered. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. I ordered my latte and joined him. The Sunday morning crowd was thin. Mostly students with laptops and couples reading newspapers. Safe. Quiet. The kind of place where difficult conversations could happen without an audience. Hey, I said. Hey. He didn't look up. I sat down. Waited. Let the silence stretch between us. I'm done, he said finally. With dating. With apps. With all of it. The words landed heavy between us. I'd suspected this. But hearing it confirmed felt different. Like watching something precious slip through your fingers. Why? He looked up then. His eyes held something I'd never seen in my little brother before. Defeat. Pure and complete. Because I'm exhausted, Vesper. I'm so tired of auditioning for a role I'll never get. That's not true. Let me finish. His voice was quiet but firm. Please. Let me say this. I closed my mouth. Nodded. Every date feels like a job interview I'm failing. There's this invisible checklist. Height. Income. Job title. Confidence level. Emotional availability. Traditional masculinity. Modern sensitivity. It's impossible to hit all the marks. He took a breath. Steadied himself. I make decent money, but it's never enough. I'm not 6 feet tall. I'm not ambitious enough or impressive enough or exciting enough. And even when someone swipes right, I can feel them comparing me to some impossible standard. Not everyone. Yes. Everyone. The sharpness in his voice made me flinch. Every woman I've dated in 3 years has had that look. Like they're checking boxes in their head. Like I'm a product they're evaluating instead of a person they're getting to know. The accusation hung between us. I wanted to deny it. But I recognized that look. I'd worn it myself more times than I could count. My friends have all stopped trying too, he continued. Tobias deleted his app 6 months ago. Callum hasn't been on a date in over a year. Idris gave up after a woman told him he was practice until she found someone better. I winced. That's cruel. At least she was honest. His smile was bitter. Most people just ghost. Or they keep you around as a backup option while they look for someone more impressive. I thought about all the conversations I'd let die. All the perfectly nice men I dismissed because they didn't spark enough excitement. Because their jobs weren't interesting enough. Because they were too available. Men ghost too, I said. My voice sounded defensive even to my own ears. I got stood up on Friday. I know. And I'm sorry. He reached across the table. Touched my hand briefly. But can you see that we're both casualties of the same broken system? I pulled my hand back. So what? I'm supposed to feel guilty that men are giving up. I'm not asking for guilt. His voice was tired. I'm asking for understanding. We're not giving up on women. We're protecting ourselves from a game that's rigged against us. The words echoed in my head long after I left the coffee shop. That night I opened my dating apps. But instead of swiping, I read. Really read. The male profiles I'd been skimming past for months. Not looking for anything serious. Just seeing what's out there. Work in progress. Please be patient. If you need someone over 6 feet, keep scrolling. No drama. No games. Just honest connection. Every profile carried defensive language. Preemptive apologies. Armor disguised as bio text. I'd always read these as red flags. Signs of emotional unavailability or baggage or lack of effort. Now I saw them as shields. Protection against 1,000 small rejections. I matched with someone new. Lysander. His profile said he was a librarian. 5'9". Liked poetry and cooking and long walks. His photos showed a gentle face with kind eyes and a slightly crooked smile. Nothing flashy. Nothing impressive by my old standards. Old me would have swiped left without a second thought. I swiped right. His message came through within minutes. Hi. I'm terrible at opening lines. How's your Sunday? Honestly? Confusing, I typed back. But getting clearer. That sounds like the beginning of a story. Maybe it is. We talked for hours. His messages were thoughtful. Self-deprecating in a way that felt genuine rather than performative. He admitted that dating apps scared him. That he'd almost given up a dozen times. Why haven't you? I asked. Because I still believe in connection. Even when it feels impossible. His honesty made my chest ache. We agreed to meet for coffee. Nothing fancy. No expectations beyond conversation. I spent 2 hours getting ready. Changed outfits 4 times. Applied and reapplied makeup until my face looked like a stranger's. Then I looked at myself in the mirror and stopped. What was I doing? Who was I trying to be? I washed off half the makeup. Changed into jeans and a sweater. Left my hair down and messy. I arrived at the cafe 5 minutes early. He was already there. He stood when he saw me and knocked over his chair. The crash made everyone turn and stare. His face flushed bright red. I'm so sorry. God. What a first impression. I laughed. A real laugh that came from somewhere genuine. It's perfect actually. We sat. Ordered drinks. The conversation started awkward. Two people trying too hard. Then slowly it relaxed into something real. Can I ask you something? I said after an hour had passed. Why are you still trying? He considered the question carefully. Because I want connection. I want someone to share my life with. But honestly? He stirred his coffee absently. I've come close to giving up more times than I can count. It's terrifying. Putting yourself out there just to be measured and found lacking. I've been the one measuring, I admitted. The words felt like confession. I had this checklist. Requirements. Standards that no real person could ever meet. Everyone has standards. No. This was different. I was evaluating men like they were job applications. Checking boxes. Calculating worth. He didn't respond immediately. Just listened. Really listened. My brother stopped dating, I continued. When he told me why, I got defensive. But he was right. I was part of the problem. So what changed? I realized I'd been so focused on finding perfect that I couldn't see real. He smiled. Soft and genuine and a little sad. Where does that leave us? He asked. I don't know. I met his eyes. I don't know if this will work. If we're compatible. If we'll make it past a second date. But I want to find out without a checklist. That sounds terrifying. It really is. Want to be terrified together? I laughed again. This man I would have dismissed a month ago was making me feel something I'd forgotten existed. Hope without conditions. Connection without calculation. Yeah, I said. I really do. That night I sat at my laptop and started writing. The essay poured out of me. Everything I'd learned. Everything I'd been avoiding. All the uncomfortable truths I'd been too defensive to acknowledge. I titled it, I Finally Realized Why Modern Men Are Opting Out. I wrote about Kieran. About the segregated wine bar. About the defensive profiles and the exhausted retreats. I wrote about my own complicity. My impossible standards. My checklist mentality. The way I'd turned human beings into metrics. I wrote about how we'd transformed connection into transaction. Romance into competition. Dating into a game where everyone was losing. The essay went viral within 3 hours. My inbox exploded. Women angry at me for betraying feminism. Men thanking me for seeing them. Stories of exhaustion and loneliness and hope from strangers across the world. Dahlia called at midnight. You're trending everywhere. I know. I'm terrified. You should be proud. Her voice was warm. You said what everyone's been thinking but too scared to admit. Kieran texted at 1 a.m. Proud of you for being brave enough to see it. Those words meant more than any viral metrics. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Processing the shift that had happened inside me. The way seeing clearly had changed everything. I didn't have all the answers. The divide between men and women felt vast and complicated. Years of cultural messaging and impossible expectations had created wounds that wouldn't heal overnight. But maybe that was okay. Maybe admitting we were all struggling was the first step. My phone buzzed. Lysander. Thank you for today. For being real. I smiled in the darkness. Thank you for not giving up. I thought about that empty chair at the wine bar. How I'd interpreted it as rejection. As proof of my inadequacy. Now I saw it differently. The men weren't missing because they didn't want connection. They were protecting themselves from a system that had made vulnerability feel like weakness. That had turned dating into a minefield where every step could trigger an explosion. We'd built walls. High walls topped with expectations and checklists and impossible standards. But walls could come down. Bridges could be built. It would take honesty. Vulnerability. The courage to stop performing and start connecting. I thought about Lysander's crooked smile. Kieran's relieved eyes. All the people out there exhausted and lonely and waiting for permission to be human. Maybe we could give each other that permission. Maybe that's how we'd find our way back. Not through impressive credentials or perfect profiles. Not through checklists or calculations or careful evaluations. But through the messy, terrifying act of seeing each other. Really seeing. Without armor or pretense or impossible demands. I closed my eyes. Let myself feel hope for the first time in months. The hope felt fragile. Like something that could shatter if I held it too tightly. But it also felt real. Solid. Worth protecting. The empty chair had taught me something important. Sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. Sometimes what's missing tells you more than what's there. The men hadn't disappeared. They'd just stopped volunteering for rejection. Stopped auditioning for roles they'd never be cast in. And maybe that wasn't giving up. Maybe that was survival. Self-preservation in a system that had forgotten how to value tenderness. How to make space for imperfection. How to see people instead of portfolios. We could do better. We had to do better. Because the alternative was a world of empty chairs and separate tables. Of walls so high we couldn't see over them anymore. Of loneliness masquerading as standards. I didn't want that world. Not anymore. I wanted bridge building. Messy conversations. Uncomfortable honesty. The hard work of dismantling expectations and rebuilding connection. I wanted Lysander's awkward chair knocking and genuine laugh. I wanted my brother to believe in possibility again. I wanted all of us to stop performing and start being. That felt like something worth fighting for. Worth changing for. Worth the discomfort of admitting I'd been wrong. The night was quiet around me. The city lights glowed through my window. Somewhere out there, Kieran was probably sleeping easier than he had in months. Somewhere out there, Lysander was maybe thinking about our date. About second chances and new beginnings. Somewhere out there, thousands of people were reading my words. Recognizing themselves. Feeling less alone. That felt like enough. Like the beginning of something that could grow if we tended it carefully. I fell asleep with my phone in my hand and hope in my chest. Tomorrow I'd wake up and try again. Try better. Try with my eyes open and my checklist burned. Try to see people as they were instead of measuring them against impossible standards. Tomorrow I'd build a bridge where there'd only been walls. Tomorrow felt possible in a way it hadn't in years. And possible, I was learning, was exactly where love began.